It's a beautiful sunny day in Holywell, and I'm here with Ben Peilow. Hello.
Good morning.
And what's been going on today?
Well, today is our well dressing weekend, and the holy well, which we're just sitting looking at the moment, is blessed every year. Why this time of year? Well, the church's name is named after St. John the Baptist, and on the 24th of June, it is the church celebrates the feast of the birth of St. John the Baptist. So we have, over a number of years, have actually celebrated both John the Baptist's birthday and more recently being just over 40 years ago, a vicar who was here had actually come from Derbyshire, seen wells dressed in Derbyshire, and decided, as we had a well, it would be a good idea to do one here. And that's where it started.
And it's quite an impressive sight. So who makes it?
Well, it's made by a number of people in the village. It sits the dressing display sits on 4 frames which are put together, and they're held together by a bigger frame at the back, which for the rugby players among you, it looks like a small scrum machine. They're wooden frames with chicken wire inside them, and then they have clay smoothed out in the frames, and then on the Monday of this week, some of the ladies of the village came down and basically transferred the design that had been made already onto the clay by basically pricking it out with cocktail sticks, then drawing the pictures by joining up the dots, and then another group over 2.5 days, probably about 25 people have come along, and actually just put petals, peppercorns, berries, and a few other things into the frames to make up the picture.
Yeah. And different picture every year?
Different picture every year. We have done all sorts of things. We've celebrated the Her Late Majesty's Jubilees. We celebrated the King and Queen's coronation. We've celebrated the 900th anniversary of the church. We've celebrated the anniversary of the Diocese of Ely. We've celebrated the Book of Common Prayer, the King James Bible, and every so often we come back to a biblical theme or something. This year we chose the sea. It's nothing to do with the fact that my wife and I have both served in the Royal Navy, but that's just a coincidence. The sea is actually, it opens up in the Book of Genesis after all, and you have some very vivid images. The storm on the Sea of Galilee, which Jesus calmed. One of the other vivid ones is actually, of course, the St. Paul's shipwreck in landing in Malta, being on his way to Rome, and to read it, and particularly to read those passages, particularly if you've actually spent time at sea, not particularly if you've actually served at sea and in the merchant service, fishing fleet, Royal Navy, whatever, then you read those descriptions, and actually they're very vivid, and they're actually. They really have the feel of being written by somebody who knew exactly what they were doing, what they were talking about, because they had been there.
Yeah, and that theme is carried on through the church. So when you go into the porch, on the left-hand side, there's a display about pollution. On the right-hand side, about some of the good things we should treasure.
Absolutely. And then as you go in, then again, this is where the whole village joins in, not just those who attend church regularly. So you have basically a display that's been put together by the Gardening Club. You've got one by the Women's Institute, one by the Wine and Beer Society, one by the Book Club, one by the Guides, one by the Trefoil Guild, which are those who've been involved in the guiding association of older years. All that sort of thing. So it's very much a sort of a village thing. And of course, we're slightly unusual because, of course, we are a parish of 2 villages: Holywell, which is the older one, and then Needingworth, which is nowadays the much larger one.
And this morning, the primary school children have been here.
Yes, indeed. Well, they come down quite regularly, but it is as you'll have seen, it's quite a walk. It's between best part of half a mile. So if the weather is really inclement, they don't. But actually, thankfully, we've been blessed over the years, particularly at this time of year, with decent weather. So they come down and they have their own service and blessing of the well, or they get the advanced view of the well, of the blessing of the well dressing the well is blessed at a service this evening.
And then over the course of the weekend?
Course of the weekend, we have basically a sort of churchyard fete, which takes place tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, and then on Sunday we have the communion service in the morning, which actually is uses the readings for the feast of John the Baptist, and then in the afternoon, again in keeping with the sea theme, we have a group of singers called the Fen Shanty Folk, who come from Fen Stanton, and they're coming to do a short concert on Sunday afternoon singing sea shanties.
Right. So if you're planning to walk along the News Valley Way, this would be a very good weekend to come through here.
It certainly would, yeah. And it's always sort of, if you like, the second last weekend in June.
Yeah.
The well actually sits in a sort of almost, it's a sort of housing which, looking at it, almost looks like a large kennel, doesn't it? With a gate in front of it, the well inside. That is actually a Victorian embellishment, if you like. The well has been, a feature of this place for, well, documentary back to the Domesday Book. Holywell is in the Domesday Book. A church is recorded as being in the Domesday Book. But the well predated that. There are, if you look at old Ordnance Survey maps, they make reference to Roman remains being found in the vicinity of this area where we're sitting in or near the churchyard. Not surprising. This is actually, if you look at it and you're looking out over the water meadows, it is high ground. It makes you realise that people 1,000 years ago knew exactly where to put things to avoid floods. The well itself, until the Victorians did that sort of housing arrangement, was more of an open pond, if you like, because that's what wells tended to look like at that time. So it would have spread across what is now either the
Garden of Contemplation?
We call it the Wild Garden,
Oh.
but it is a contemplative place. There's no two ways about it. And actually, there's a few volunteers keep that up. Yes, it's wild, but in order for it to stay wild, you have to actually sort of manage it a bit. So it's managed really sensitively, and they do a really good job.
So if you're walking through, it's well worth coming and having a look, but it can get a bit boggy.
It can get a bit boggy. We had 2 large willow trees in that garden until a couple of years ago. Sadly, honey fungus did for both of them, and they had to come down, and of course their root systems have died. And because it is actually, you've got a spring running through the well, and then out down to the brook just below the garden, those root systems are no longer operating, so the water just sits.
So earlier on the walk, we passed another church that had a well underneath it. That was at Stevington.
Yeah.
And there I've met somebody who only collects water and only drinks water from there. Does anybody want to use this water in any way?
Well, in short, they don't, although what we do is we take off some water every so often and boil it, obviously, but and then we use that for christenings. And in fact, we also have some water from the River Jordan, which just tends to get 1 or 2 drops of that go in without the water of Holywell. So anyone who is christened here will actually have water taken from the well.
And I've noticed something else people tend to do. They leave money, or they put money into the well.
Yes, indeed, they do, and it's very, very generously too. And that actually goes to defray the running costs for the church.
Because to run a church like this and do this well dressing, all of that, it costs money, but it also costs time as well.
Oh, very much so. And thankfully, there's a huge amount of goodwill towards the church in the village community as a whole. And I say, just remind you, it's 2 villages. I'll just use the word village because it's easier. But people come from sort of all parts of it. Some are regular churchgoers. Some actually only come to do that sort of thing. So it doesn't matter. They all are welcome, and they're just so good at rallying round. And so with the petalling, which was done to put the design onto the dressing this year, there's probably about 20 to 25 people came along over that 2.5 days to do it. A smaller group actually cleaned the clay, and then a couple of us actually put the clay in the frames. But then the sort of huge number then sort of turned up and just, some got loads of experience, and some never done it before, but they just come along to do it.
I mean, it is an unusually pretty village, Holywell, particularly the part that's by the floodplain.
It is, and we're very fortunate to live here. But yes, it is. It's also actually one of the few Saxon villages around, because it is circular. There's only one road in and out. So there's a bit of a sense, almost a sort of sense of being sort of more peaceful, if you like, than say other places with basic roads running through them.
The church is also open. Am I right in saying the church is open for people to visit?
Yes, the church is open daily. I mean, if for any reason we have to close it for a specific reason, then we'll put a note up to say so. During the day, all are welcome to visit. And there are some very moving things written in our visitors book, for instance, and people just like it. We set up in COVID a thing called prayers in the porch, because when the churches had to be locked, then what we did was we put tags and pens and in the porch with some ribbons, and people were leaving sort of prayers on on them, which we then brought into the church and placed on the altar. To be honest, we thought that was going to sort of finish when things opened up, but in fact it hasn't. It's still going, and again you get some really moving sort of very short statements written in there, which again we actually sort of take those into the church every month now at a Compline service in the evening. We actually read out those prayers and we then place them on the altar as petitions that people have actually prayed for in our porch.
So to find out details, just to confirm what weekend the well dressing takes place and any other details, you have a website.
You can find out details of the website. You can find out that there should be details in, if you look on the Holywell cum Needingworth general website, there's a magazine called The Villager, which you should see an electronic copy of, and that will actually give details of. That's probably gives some quite good details of where the church is.
Right, and maybe other
things going on in the two villages as well.
Right, which is good if you want to stop over, because there's a pub at the end of the village that's a nice place to stop, and so you find out all the other things that are going on here.
Absolutely, yeah. The pub is the old ferryboat inn, and it regards itself. I'm sure there are loads of others, but it regards itself as one of the oldest inns in England. But I mean,
along with all the others.
Along with all of the others, of course.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Not at all, and have a good day, and enjoy your walks.